And viewers, this is the story of the greatest disservice done to Hindus. A little over a decade ago, the term Hindu terror came to be used frequently. A section of politicians and their sympathizers began to suggest that some Hindus had organized themselves into terror groups to attack Muslims and turn India into a Hindu Rashtra. Many Congress politicians and those from the left said that agencies had found evidence against Lieutenant Colonel Purohit, linking him to organized acts of terror. The agencies claimed that Lieutenant Colonel Purohit, who as an army man was driven by notions of Hindu supremacism, was the brain behind several blasts intended to kill Muslims. They based their claims filed in court on the basis of several witnesses. Some of these witnesses were from the army itself, and on the basis of these witnesses, Colonel Purohit, who was a much lauded army man, was thrown into jail. Hindus were cast as extremists thereafter. But today, viewers, Times Now's Radhika has unearthed the entire plan, the plot that went behind it. Testimonies of these very same witnesses that suggest that the agencies may not have been above board. Here, for the first time from the mouths of these witnesses, how words were allegedly attributed to them, even though they never spoke them. In fact, some were even made eyewitnesses when they were not anywhere close to Colonel Purohit to qualify as such. Let me quickly begin by putting out this proof. This is the proof that we have on paper, and I'm going to quickly take you through some of these affidavits in which these witnesses have maintained, and I'm going to quote them. This dates to 19th November 2022. This year itself, in the month of November, this witness number 288 here, viewers, and you can see what he maintains. I don't recollect whether in the year 2008 ATS officer from Bombay had been to our office or not. Similar such revelations that come to light. I was called by ATS in Mumbai. They inquired whether I knew anything about the incident of 2008. I had not personally visited the spot and hence not having more knowledge about the said incident. Several such proofs that Times Now has managed to gather. Pranesh, over to you. Tell us more.
An army officer was villainized, tortured, implicated, and over the years the ecosystem has remained silent. Times Now has quickly put together the eyewitness testimonies. These are the people, on the basis of their testimonies, there is a case against Colonel Purohit. But this is based on falsehood because these people are saying in their testimonies, and it's in black and white. Let's go over the 5 witness testimonies that we have. Witness number 288, laptop shown to me, I don't remember or identified. So the officer showed him something, but he says, I don't remember. Then he says, I can't even read. If you go to the next point, it says that I can't even read. I cannot read, write or understand Marathi. I had signed on exhibits on behalf of my seniors. So if a person who cannot understand what is written, how was his sign taken? He says, don't recollect signing any handing over certificate. 288, witness number 288, saying this. We have the paper. And this is not the only witness that we have. And Rahul Shivshankar, our editor-in-chief, is also joining us. Rahul, let's do this one by one. This is the first testimony. The witness saying, look, I did not do it. I wasn't even aware.
Yes, this is really the 29th witness in this case. And this happened just a few weeks ago. Now, why are we doing this story? It is a fact, viewers, that over the last few years, the claims that have been made by the ATS to implicate Colonel Purohit as the fount of Hindu terror, that particular case has been floundering. And why has it been floundering? It has been floundering because a large number of witnesses and other evidence that has been collated is not standing up to scrutiny. A large number of these witnesses, and here we have, viewers, one after the other, several of these depositions. All these depositions of these witnesses suggest that the ATS, in fact, did not record any of their statements on paper, that in fact they put words in their mouths later by assuming certain things that were never stated on record. Now, you can see all these, there are 6 or 7 of these statements I have. But viewers, what is fascinating about this case is that Colonel Purohit, and this is on record, the army has gone on record commending him for doing a fantastic task in the service of the nation by infiltrating undercover certain terms like saffron terror, Hindu terror, Hindutva terror, to try and build on this. And Colonel Purohit became really the cornerstone of this campaign, because he was projected as an individual who had smuggled RDX from out of the army, etc., to use with a number of his cohorts, co-accused, to plan blasts in which a large number of Muslims would be killed. This was, viewers, the claim that Colonel Purohit had gone rogue. Now, we have with us several examples where the army itself has commended the work done by Colonel Purohit. However, viewers, the case was built by the ATS, and today we've reached such a pass that when an author has decided to tell his side of the story, that particular author is now being intimidated. There are demands being made in Maharashtra by certain groups, Dalit groups, Muslim groups, to ban this book, to not allow it to see the light of day, almost as if anything Colonel Purohit says, indirectly or directly, could at some level lead to massive catastrophes in this country. It's strange, this claim, because we have had in the past Colonel Purohit write to the NHRC talking about the willful torture that was inflicted upon him, and both you, that is Pranesh and Christine, will already have access to excerpts from this book where this is mentioned. We'll come to that a little later. But viewers, the fact is, witnesses, the evidence, nothing seems to be stacking up. And a large number of others like Swami Asimanand and Sadhvi Pragya, who were also implicated in this larger saffron conspiracy or Hindu terror conspiracy, even in their cases, a similar pattern is being noticed, where, at least in the case of Swami Asimananda, once again a large number of witnesses turned turtle. They did U-turns. The public prosecutor had to sort of go out there and claim that he didn't have a case. Similarly here, the question obviously arises, was some of these witnesses coached into trying to build cases, maybe false cases, I can't say, against these individuals, with the larger purpose, with the larger end of creating this narrative about the extremist Hindu who goes out there, who's intolerant, who doesn't like any diversity in this country, and is working to underwhelm the Constitution. That perhaps could be something a large number of people suggest this. Times now, of course, is only going by these witness statements that we've painstakingly been able to gather for you, viewers, from our sources. In fact, Radhika Ramaswamy has done a commendable job in getting these statements. We're going to be connecting to her in just a few moments, and we'll talk to her about the work that she has done and the implications of the expose that she has conducted here for us. But very quickly, Pranesh, if you could just take us through some of the other testimonials which suggest that these individuals, some of them are from the army, who were used by the ATS to obviously charge Colonel Purohit under the...
Not inquire with me, but inquire others, but his name has been put. This is the witness number 108 saying this. I don't know if anybody visited Purohit or not. The police, in this case, multiple agencies now relying on this. But he says, I do not know what happened. The next part, not correct to say that the police recorded my statement. Can it get any worse than this? Not correct to say police recorded my statement. And some of them are even saying, Rahul, that we were threatened. So while Colonel Purohit was tortured in custody, we have those details also. The witnesses were also threatened. I had not stated the contents in the portion. As many words. This is now part of the court documents in black and white. Not correct to say statement was recorded as per my say. Let's go to the next witness statement. This is witness number 3. His witness number 109. What he says, I haven't visited the spot and do not have more knowledge. Why I am being forced to say all these things? Then he says, I don't recollect if police recorded my statement. Now, if a witness was called, summoned, whatever, and was asked detailed questions, would he not remember? But he says, I don't remember. Purohit was a good officer, was working in a good manner. So not only was the army officially endorsing, but even the witnesses are saying in their personal capacity, not correct to say police pressurizing me to depose against Purohit. But there are several others who have said, let's go to the next one. This is witness number 4, 149 statement. Witness number 149 statement. I can't say if Colonel Purohit is present in court or not now. Let's go to the more operative part. It is not true that Purohit sat in his vehicle and went away. Then he says, witness number 149 says, it is not true that I read out my statement and it is correct as per my say. And there are several others. Let's go to the last witness. This is witness number 149. Here is witness number 5. In this case, witness number 243rd statement. I am not remembering my statement at this moment. We've attached the screenshot. ATS threatened me, and this is what I was talking about. ATS threatened me to oblige them or they will send me to jail. So Rahul, here we had a situation where the agency had a script ready and they were threatening people.
It is difficult to make that outright conclusion. But what we can say is that at this moment, Pranesh, there appears to be a number of witnesses that seem to suggest that what they said is not what is mentioned in the charge sheet. In fact, a large number of witnesses are saying they didn't even say any words that have been attributed to them. In fact, there was never any willful recording of their testimonies on paper by the ATS, the Maharashtra ATS. Now remember, this entire case, for those who are just tuning into this broadcast, viewers, Colonel Purohit was thought to be part of a larger cell that was planning terror attacks in and around Maharashtra and also in other parts of the country with the aim of trying to create communal disturbances. And Colonel Purohit was arrested and kept in prison for 9 years. He was arrested along with Sadhvi Pragya, Swami Asimanand, as part of a larger Hindu terror cell, as it was ascribed. That was the moniker ascribed to this group, to try and go out there and, as I said, destabilize the peace in this country and create a communal backlash and violence. So that was really the outline of this story. But for that story to stick, for those claims to stick, there has to be proof. Now, many people will say that these witnesses are being pressured by a government and its machinery that is actually validating Hindu terror, this, that, the other. There'll always be these claims, of course, Pranesh, and therefore it's always better not to jump to conclusions. But the fact is, the interesting fact is, as Christine is telling us, that certain things are no longer adding up. And Colonel Purohit himself got bail. And today, of course, there has been an intervention by some of those victims' kin who saw their loved ones die in the Malegaon blast, approached the courts to say that a story or a book written about Colonel Purohit must not be released in the public domain because it could end up, A, supercharging the atmosphere, number 2, create a sympathy for him, influence the court, number 3, and 4, of course, lead to many people villainizing the investigative agency. Of course, that is not our interest. We are only trying to bring out, viewers, what we can show you on the basis of the claims in testimonials released by a large number of our sources to our reporters. And we've got hold of these which suggest that the ATS perhaps had either misrepresented certain statements or, more importantly, viewers, had cooked up a whole set of circumstances and evidence.
Okay. And what you're telling us is what we're going to conclude at the moment. We're not going to jump to any conclusions further, Rahul. Yes. But yes, we can most certainly say at this point in time that something is not quite adding up. Let's also talk about the book, since you mentioned that that is something that is, you know, right in the middle of the storm. Let's talk about how, when the author has now written the biography of Colonel Purohit, the same lobby is intimidating her. It is apparent that for some reason there is a deliberate attempt being made to muzzle puzzle Colonel Purohit's side of the story. We're going to talk about the contents of the book, but first up, let's listen into those who clearly have a problem with what the book tells us today.
Okay, let's just also very quickly, Christine, go over what the book says. On page 8, it says Purohit was a decorated officer, a die-hard patriot. This terror was defined in the name of his religion. Hindu terror and Purohit were used synonymously. That's exactly what I was saying, viewers, a short while back to you, that there was some sort of a equivalence that was drawn between the actions, alleged actions of Colonel Purohit and the Hindu faith itself. The book goes on to say Purohit's wife ran from pillar to post for justice. His son grew up with the stigma of being the child of a terror accused. On page 12, outside a closed circle, nobody knew about Malegaon's story. Wasn't it time to find out more about the polarized political debates? So this particular author decided to scratch a little deeper and investigate this. Her name is Smita Mishra. On page 119, she describes the torture that Purohit underwent allegedly in jail when he was in custody. Now remember, Purohit had written a letter to the NHRC detailing the torture, and this is pretty much borrowing heavily from that. On page 127, the author writes, Aparna became the anchor in Colonel Purohit's fight, Aparna being, of course, his wife. Aparna conquered her inner fears, gave direction to the legal fight. Colonel Purohit's real lawyer was Aparna Purohit. And when we have spoken to her in the past, one has been aware of the steely resolve of Aparna Purohit, who's always believed that her husband was framed. Page 162 says, sources confirmed Army had established an ISI SIMI link. ISI agents were helping SIMI to procure arms, sensitive data, blasts and recoveries, established ISI SIMI network. So clearly there has been an attempt to present what Mr. Purohit believes is what the people should also hear, because he's not been able to tell his side of the story. And today this book has become a point of contention. But as Christine was saying, why is it being objected to? Listen in. There'll be a lot of these reactions that you can listen to.
The Malegaon blast and people related with this blast, it's a very serious issue which gets subrogates. In these circumstances, any sort of book which would be supportive of such people who are accused in the blast case, or we are still under the scanner, is being released. It's highly controversial, and that's why obviously public sentiments are against such people, especially in the Malegaon bomb blast, which was serious incidents.
Okay, so let's open this up. We have Asif Bhamla, BJP spokesperson, with us, along with the lawyer Subash Jha, also Islamic scholar Atikur Rahman, and political analyst Anirban Banerjee. I want to first begin by asking you, Mr. Atikur Rahman, why do some have a problem if, let's say, Lieutenant Colonel Purohit wants to put out his side of the story, wants to talk about his version? The author says, during the launch of the book, that she in fact alleged that the face of Indian Army officer Colonel Purohit was used to hide the jihadi face of terrorism in the Malegaon blast case. Further alleged that some political parties caused long-term damage to the nation for temporary political gain. These are allegations being levelled by Colonel Purohit, by the author, in the book. Why do some have a problem with that today?
And I see is the case going in the court, and yet either Colonel Purohit, respected Colonel Purohit, or Sajid Pragya Singh or the other accused are not, getting any release from the case. So it's a very, very subjudice matter on it. If a person is writing a book and that too claiming that the person was not involved, this is, I see, as intimidation at a very, very large scale. Secondly, a very important factor here is the ruling regime, the BJP supporting either the terror accused Pragya Singh Thakur, taking her to parliament as a member of parliament.
But Mr. Atikur Rahman, what do we make of these witnesses' accounts? What do we make of what the witnesses are stating? They're not even clear of what the ATS had quoted back then. And if the ATS has had quoted them, they're saying they're not quite sure that these were their statements. Some of them have retracted from their statements. Some are not in agreement to what the ATS has perhaps quoted.
In the absence
Forget the BJP. What about these witnesses, sir? Some of them are from the army backgrounds.
in the absence of a witness protection law, this is bound to happen. All witnesses are under threat. They are intimidated by the BJP and the Sangh element. They want to have a terror people, and no doubt all these people will be sitting in 2024 in the parliament. I am sure about it. Because what they are building up the ground with all these terror accused are very much a clear sign that India is moving towards a Hindu Rashtra. And nothing but a Hindu Rashtra.
But who do we believe? Atikur Rahman, who do we believe? Should we believe the witnesses who say they were tortured, they were threatened by ATS, or should changing their statement? I want Asif Bhamla to come in. Mr. Bhamla, what do you make of what Atikur Rahman is saying? Allegations against the BJP.
You see, I would not like to rebut on what Mr. Atikur Rahman is saying. I would like to rebut on the facts relating to this case, because we know that it's the Congress has not discouraged the morale of the armed force for the first time. It's been happening over the years, and we've been saying it time and again, but it has never happened. You see, but this was to establish him as a propagator, to Colonel Purohit, to establish him as a propagator of a saffron terrorism, and he was finally arrested as a Hindu terrorist to put a narrative of a Bhagwa Atangwad. You see, this is something which the establishment of the day wanted to do. Now, give me a sufficient time, because you gave sufficient time for Atikur Rahman to put his point across. So I expect the same also. So this was he was forcefully told. Now you're seeing him, the witnesses are taking a U-turn. You see, he was forcefully told to admit that he had stolen the RDX from the army depot and he supplied it to the terrorists. You see, and it was unfortunate that an army officer of his nature who was having an illustrious past, had to suffer for 9 years of jail. Who is answerable for this and who is accountable for this? I am asking you today, this was just to widen the gap to establish a narrative that there is a Muslim terrorist, so there has to be a Hindu terrorism, to create a balance between the wrongdoings, and you see, to label him as a terror, to label him as a terror.
The term Hindu terror, sir, was coined around that time, isn't it, Pranesh? And
tortured. No.
If we go by...
No, let me complete. Let me complete. He was tortured. He was tortured. He was demonized. He was vandalized, you see, against a falsehood case by the Congress party then, you see. And let me tell you, it was a planned script by the ATS, and there was a plan in place with no willful recording of a testimony. He was forced to admit things which he wouldn't as a respectable officer, but he had to submit to the government in power.
Let's also quickly get in the legal voice. Okay, Mr. Bhamla, you made your point. I'll bring you in again. Subash Jha, what do you make of this, sir? The 6 witness testimonies that we just read out. Mr. Jha, if you can hear us. You will have to unmute yourself, sir. You're speaking, but you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. There seems to be some problem with the audio, so I'm not able to exactly comprehend. The question was to me, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And can you please repeat the question?
What do you make of the witness testimonies, the 6 witness testimonies that we've put out, in which they are saying that we were not aware? A laptop was shown to an individual. The text was in Marathi. He says, I can't read Marathi. I don't know what was shown to me. And his signature was taken.
This is not something which is very unusual. It happens day in and day out in our courts. But let me tell your viewers something different, which many of us, even in the panel, may not know. See, there were 2 blasts in 2006 and 2008. The first blast of 2006 was investigated by the local police. It was transferred, the investigation of the case was transferred to the ATS Maharashtra. That means anti-terrorist group of Maharashtra state, anti-terrorist police. And thereafter, the investigation was taken over by the CBI and then ultimately by the NIA. You will be surprised to know that the first three investigating agencies, namely the local police and so also ATS and then the CBI, all three confirmed that this was the work of SIMI. SIMI was involved, terrorist group was involved in this blast. When the case was transferred to the NIA, the NIA coined the theory for the first time that no, this is not SIMI, but this is Hindus who were involved in the group, including Colonel Purohit and all other people. So therefore, my question is slightly different. Who is right? And ultimately, whether we should trust the ATS, we should trust the CBI, which confirmed to the report of ATS, or we should believe the NIA. We have not, as of now, we haven't coined or rather made a mechanism to deal with such a situation. Those people who are involved in the process of investigation are to be made accountable. They are the one who are answerable. It could have never happened like this. Either the CBI or the ATS is correct, or the NIA is wrong, and vice versa. Either NIA is wrong and these two people are right. So something which has happened, it is very unfortunate that a decorated officer like Colonel Purohit had to remain in jail for 8 years, and his suffering is not yet over. It has been now 14 long years that he is suffering incarceration.
And Mr. Jha, the officer is not saying that he was decorated. It's not the family saying that, look, it's not the wife saying that, look, my husband was decorated. The army has made it clear. It's recorded. Not once, but multiple times.
No, absolutely. There is no doubt about it that he was such a decorated officer. And if a decorated officer of the rank of Colonel Purohit, Lieutenant Colonel, has to suffer this kind of a suffering, then in my opinion, all those who made him to suffer are to be also made accountable at the same time. And so therefore, if the witnesses have been recorded or manipulated in this way by NIA, and those are the very witnesses who are deposing, they have rightly not supported the case of the prosecution or NIA, which was sought to be foisted upon Colonel Purohit. As it is as simple as that.
Okay. So we're of course discussing, Pranesh, how he was a highly decorated officer, a highly disciplined officer, and that, by the way, apart from these witnesses, some of the officers who also served with him in the armed forces in the past had maintained. So what about all of those versions? Can we conveniently sideline those versions? I want Anirban Banerjee to come in. Anirban Banerjee, several who have also served with him in the past, and through the course of our coverage, we've spoken to so many such voices, credible voices, who've gone on to, on a very logical level, explain how, for example, the main allegation against him of storing the RDX or perhaps delivering the RDX also falls flat. How did you seize an RDX back in 2002-03, store it at your home wherein there is a designated ammo depot in every armed forces unit, and one would fear storing ammunition such as an RDX at their residence, I mean, it does not make sense. And then going by these witness statements, things are not quite adding up. What else should one conclude?
So what everything you're saying is pointing to one direction only, that is the trial court is rather stupid, that it could not see through all these things, that the trial is still going on. And the number of witnesses who have gone rogue in this case that you are showing, probably 5 or 6, among almost 300
But what if the witnesses were forced and pressurized to give statements against Lieutenant Purohit, and they're retracting now? They're no longer being pressurized.
Sorry, I couldn't get your question.
No, just meaning to ask you, what about all of those witnesses? You're talking about the court's incompetence here, but what about the whole idea of how now they're being allowed to perhaps retract from those statements? They're no longer being pressurized.
I am not saying that the court is stupid or incompetent. I am saying the theory that you are cooking up is pointing to that direction.
Listen, Mr. Banerjee, this is no theory. We are putting out the documents. The documents are speaking for themselves. We are not putting up some theory. We are not in that business.
So
choose your words carefully, please. Mr. Anirban Banerjee, do not go on a rant like this, please.
Pranesh, by profession, I am a criminal lawyer. Day in, day out, this is exactly what I do.
No, but if you're a criminal lawyer,
so is Mr. Jha. No, so are you saying he is stupid?
Pranesh, listen to me. Pranesh, listen to me. The number of witnesses who have who have gone rogue that you are showing, the number is barely 5 or 6 among almost 300 witnesses. That adds up to barely 1.5% of the entire witness stack. So what are you trying to prove here? Why not bring out all the other witnesses, the other statements? Why not declare that we are the trial court? Let the trial courts go to hell. This is called
Anirban Banerjee, we'll surely get to doing that as well. But how are you conveniently ignoring the version of these 5 witnesses, 6 witnesses, 7 witnesses, however many they may be?
No,
these are
5 or 6 witnesses.
detailed affidavits that they've submitted, not a single page affidavit, sir.
What about the rest? There are almost 300 witnesses. What about the rest 280, 290 witnesses? Why not also speak about them? What have they said? Have they confirmed the theory of the ATS?
But you won't comment on what they have to say. You won't comment on what they have to say, is it?
This is a very standard thing. Among 300 witnesses, 5, 6, 10, maybe even 50 will go back from their statements.
Mr. Jha, is this a standard thing?
Court, they might go back.
No, let's get another legal opinion. No, let's get another view on this. Mr. Jha.
I fail to understand. This is not how a trial is conducted. I'm sorry that Mr. Banerjee say that he is a lawyer, and therefore he must know how the trial proceeds. There are, say, about 101 or odd witnesses who have been examined. So ultimately, which witness is going to depose what? Nobody can predict. So it will ultimately be decided at the fag end of the trial, or after all the witnesses are examined. Their testimony will be analyzed by, its worthiness will be analyzed by the trial court, and a judgment will be then delivered based on those statements.
So why are we delivering judgments today?
Okay.
No.
Now that you... No, 1 minute. Mr. Anirban Banerjee, let me ask you. One of these witnesses, 288 if I'm not wrong, is a punch. He was, according to the agency, present when things were collected and something was signed off. But he says, I was not there. So he is not some ordinary witness, one of the 300 like you are suggesting.
No witness in a criminal trial is ordinary, Pranesh.
But you just said it.
No, we've put out versions of eyewitnesses,
sir. You are discrediting all of them.
No, I am saying 5 of the witnesses that you have come up with, who have gone against their statements, have retracted their statements originally given to the agency.
Their testimonies are crucial, Anirban Banerjee. The reason, 1 minute.
With the rest.
You are confusing issues, Tritswin. 1 minute. Let me distinguish. 1 minute, Mr. Banerjee. Hear me out, sir. Let me distinguish this.
Anirban, according to the courts don't work according to what Anirban says. You see, there is a system, there is a set arrangement. You should understand that you are speaking on a public platform. You are trying to demean those people who have given the statements also.
Okay.
You have already fixed
well, Mr. Anirban Banerjee, you may not agree to what Lieutenant Purohit maintains, and you're free to do so. But the fact remains that these are some unanswered questions, and these are some very important witnesses, because these are eyewitnesses. These are witnesses who can perhaps detail for you what really happened on that very day when those allegations were being leveled against Lieutenant Purohit. And that's exactly why they're very crucial and cannot be sidelined. I'm going to have to leave it at that. Self and Pranesh thanking all our guests joining us this evening. Thank you.